Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Nina, and I'm the National Sales Manager for MENDA. I'll be hosting today's webinar, which will be covering 5S on the production workbench. This webinar is really great for anybody who wants to learn the basics of 5S, or even if you have a 5S program in place and want to know more about how to implement 5S specifically in your production workbench area. So first, I want to cover a few logistical items regarding the format today. All participants except me have been muted for the duration of the webinar, so don't worry if your dog is barking in the background or the lawn people come by. Seriously, we won't know a thing. Alyssa, the MENDA brand manager, will be handling all the questions. So if you have any questions, please submit them in the chat section of the webinar, and we'll address most of those at a specific point within the webinar. If we don't get to all of them though, don't worry, we'll answer your question by email as a follow-up. And truly, any and all questions are encouraged and appreciated, so please ask away. We promised to keep it short and sweet, right around 30 minutes, kind of like a speed dating version of learning 5S. With that in mind, let's go ahead and dive in and start talking about 5S. So first I want to cover who exactly is MENDA, in case you guys aren't familiar. MENDA is a supplier of workbench accessories that support these organization and efficiency programs like 5S. So products that help improve productivity and support these type of programs. We have all different products that fit into that. So today on the webinar, we're going to be covering these 4 areas. We're going to talk about a definition of 5S. What exactly is 5S? What are the 5S's? So I'll be reviewing that. Next, we're going to talk about the benefits of 5S. How can 5S help improve your production area? And what's the value that comes out of that? So we'll be covering that. And then we're going to talk about how to implement 5S. How do you put together a plan? What are the steps that you take to actually implement 5S onto your workbench? We'll go through all of that. And then finally, we'll talk about how MENDA can help you do that. So let's start at the beginning. What exactly is 5S? 5S is a step-by-step process which is designed to improve workplace efficiency, productivity, and safety. It actually originated in Japan post-World War II and was implemented in these industrial workplaces and really is a step-by-step guide on how to do that. It's actually based on 5 Japanese words starting with the letter S, which is why we call it 5S. So here we're looking at a chart of what those 5 steps are and what those 5 S's are, and I'm going to go through them really quickly. So step number 1 is theory, which the English equivalent is sort. And what we're really doing in that step of the process is going through items and getting rid of things that we don't need. So we're moving clutter. Step 2 is Satan, which equals set in English, which what we're doing in this part of the process is organizing the items, labeling them, and putting them into place. Step 3 is Seisu, which is shine, which what we're really talking about here is cleaning. We're going to be organizing and then cleaning the entire work area. And then step 4 is Seketsu, which is standardized. So we're going to be creating visual and written documented standards to follow, and we're going to be carrying those out through all the other workbenches that are doing the same thing. And then finally, 5 is Shitsuke, which is sustain. So it's going to be the maintenance of the program and carrying it through on an ongoing basis, kind of like going on a diet. You can't just go on a diet and lose weight and then stop eating well and expect things to work. 5S is the same thing. You want to implement the program, but then you need to maintain it and keep doing all of those positive things, continue receiving those benefits. So on the subject of benefits, let's talk about what some of them are. There are lots and lots of them, but we really picked the top ones that are going to be most impactful on the production workbench. Number 1 and 2, efficiency and productivity is huge. By implementing this program, you're going to see a huge improvement in these areas. And that could mean more productivity out of each worker, could mean more product is produced, better product, higher quality of work is going to happen. Cleanliness, you're going to see a much cleaner work area and a safer work area. We're going to be looking at all of those things to implement and ensure that we're reducing safety incidents in your workplace. Employee morale, that's a huge one. When people feel good about their workplace and their work area, they're going to produce better work and be more efficient. So going back to all the other qualities, when employee morale is high, you're really going to see all those other things carry through. And then finally, marketing and customer credibility. I think this one is often overlooked, but is huge, that when your workplace, when your production work area is functioning in a productive, efficient way, and it looks good, and everybody's able to produce better product, your customers are going to see that, and they're going to see the reflection of that in the quality of the service and the product that you're going to present to them. So in turn, you're going to attract better, higher quality customers, and your business can grow. So before we move into the process, I want to talk about some keys to success for your 5S plan. These things need to all be into place. That does require a little bit of planning and organizing to ensure that you have these things organized before you start implementing. So number 1 is leadership and creating a committee who's going to organize and plan to implement this program. You're going to want to designate someone who's in charge, who can pull together all your resources and make it all happen and then maintain it over time. You're also going to want all employees participating and on board with the program. You want to make sure everybody understands what's involved, what the key benefits are, and everybody's doing their part. That's going to be an important component. And then training and education, that's part of those employees participating too, is ensuring that they understand what's expected, that they know what the process is, and that they're educated on how to implement it on an individual basis. Collecting and tracking data is huge too. You're going to want to look at what did things look like at the beginning of the program and what did they look like at the end of the program or after you've finished implementing, and then regularly checking in. How are these benefits affecting your business? So this could be before and after pictures of a workbench, tracking sales, looking at what sales are before and after, looking at productivity, measuring how much each worker is producing, measuring the amount of errors that are coming out of each production workbench. So all of those things are data and metrics you're going to track, and you're going to want to figure out what are the metrics that are important to your business and the focus areas where you want to see the greatest improvement, and those are the things you're going to want to track. Visual communication is a big part of 5S. You want to make sure there are signs, that everything is communicated well, and that everything is very clear and organized. So that's a big key component. And then of course, ongoing maintenance is big too. So what are some of the additional resources that can help you implement a 5S program? Of course, you're here today on this webinar, which is a really great start, but you're probably going to need to pull in additional resources to help support your efforts in this. So number 1, start with your distributors and your rep partners. These guys have been out in the field and they're experts in seeing what works and what doesn't. They may not be total experts in 5S specifically, but they're going to have seen it and know what products and resources work well, and they can help be your guides and help steer you in the direction that you need to go and provide many of the resources you're going to need to implement this. Online courses are a great resource too. You guys are doing this webinar, of course, but your business might need a more specific niche. You might be in aerospace, or you might be in medical device manufacturing that has special needs. And that's where you're going to want to pull in maybe some of those online courses. Books and guides, signage and worksheets. Try Googling 5S free downloads or 5S PDF. This form right here on the right that shows the 5S colors, that's a form that we got online, and it's totally free. And you'll find all different kind of charts and resources, spreadsheets, charts, documents, signs, all kinds of things that will benefit and help you in the process and find things that work for your business. I guarantee you it's been done, super easy and free to download. And then finally, MENDA Workbench Solutions. We're here to provide our resources and to support you in your efforts in implementing. So we'll go into a little bit more detail on how we do that, but that's what we're here for. So any questions so far about what we've covered?
Thank you, Nina. There is one question at this time. Do you recommend our operators at the bench are a part of our 5S program implementation?
Yes, absolutely. Every employee should be involved in the implementation and the entire process from beginning to end. And we've really seen that when employees are involved and in charge, especially for their own workstation, that there's a lot more ownership that comes out of that. And there's a lot of pride and real benefits in maintaining it, and really kind of carries into the productivity benefits too.
Thank you. There are no additional questions at this time. We will have another question session in a few moments.
Okay, great. So this picture right here shows a before picture. This is very typical. I'm sure you guys have seen these before. Maybe your workbench looks like this. I've seen actually much worse than this, but the point here is that it's disorganized, there's no order, things are kind of mixed up. There are items that probably don't need to be here, they're not in logical locations. This is often going to be our starting point, and that's okay. We've got solutions and we can get to a better place, but this really illustrates that well. So next we're going to dive into initiating your 5S program. How are we going to do that? What are the steps we're going to take? And this 5S icon here really shows the flow and the cycle of what we're going to go through. So we're going to break that down step by step. The first step we're going to start with is sort. And our goal here is to remove clutter. And we're going to show you exactly how to do that. So here we've got a workbench that's got all kinds of things going on. There's trash on there. Things are all over the place. So the very first step we're going to do is go through and look at all these items and get rid of everything that we don't need to have on this workbench. So if it's trash, that's the first thing to go. You're going to get rid of that styrofoam cup, that plastic bottle. You ESD safe guys know you definitely don't want those on there anyway. So get those out of there. And then you're going to evaluate all the other items one by one and decide, is that something that needs to stay on the workbench, or is it something that is not used all the time? So the items that stay, you're going to leave there, and then the items that you don't need all the time, you're going to put into what we call a red tag quarantine area. Now, what I mean by this is it's going to be a separate section. It can be a desk, it can be a box, it can be a little side area on the floor. You're going to put all those items to the side, and we call them red tag because within 5S, you can actually download red tags where you tag and label them. You don't have to do that. You can do it. We're not going to go too deep into it here, but that's available, and that's kind of what that means. So we'll circle back to those red tag items in a few minutes. Everything else that's left on the bench, and you want to look in the drawers, you want to look overhead, you want to look down below, and you want to make sure you're looking at everything and evaluating, does it need to be there? Then you're going to create a list, and this could be on an Excel spreadsheet. It could be in a notebook, or you could download a form online where you're going to document all the items that are staying, and you're going to put those on that list. And we're going to come back to that list. But for now, we're just making a list. So now we're going to go back to those red tag items, those items that you set to the side in a box that are not going to stay on the workbench. You're going to sort through those, and they're going to be sorted into these 3 categories: scrap, storage, or return back to the bench. So the scrap stuff you're going to take, and you're either going to throw it out or recycle it or whatever. The storage stuff, what you're going to do is take those items out, and you're going to document what they are. This might be a hand tool that you don't need every day, but only for certain projects. Or it could be additional desoldering braid. Maybe you don't need 20 spools of that on the workbench, you only need 3. So all those items are going to be documented on a list, and they're going to be stored away, and you're going to note where those are stored. They might go into a storage cabinet or a closet or in a shelving area. Whatever the case is, that's going to be documented so employees can refer to this book, whether it's a spreadsheet or notebook or whatever, and know where to find those items when they need them. Make that quick and easy. And then the return items you put back on the workbench if after careful consideration you decided, oh wait, I do need those. And then we're going to go through those in a minute here. So the next step we're going to talk about is set in order. And the goal here is organization. So we're going back to the workbench, and this view of the workbench has actually already been beautifully organized. So you can see our MENDA Workstation organizer is so great for this because everything really has a place and it's logical and easy to reach. So the first step in organization that we're going to do is think safety. We don't want heavy items up high. We don't want something sharp in the way of where we're reaching for something. We want to ensure that everything is in a safe location. We're maximizing that as we're considering the layout. The next thing we're going to consider as we're deciding where items go is what is ergonomic. We're not going to want the soldering station, if we're using that all day, in that upper left-hand corner. If you're a righty, you're going to want it in that logical location where it's easy to reach. So really putting thought and consideration into which items you're using most often and what makes the most logical sense about where to put them. And then the next thing that you're going to consider is, what are the items I use most often? If I'm not using something that often, like that tape spool or that spray bottle, maybe you don't need those all day, every day. Those could be set in a little bit more distant location. So kind of going through all those items and figuring out where they go. Then you're going to go back to your log, your list, whether that's a spreadsheet or whatever that was, and document where those items should go. Because when we replicate this on the other workbenches, we want to know that we're doing the same thing on each workbench, so we don't have to start it all over. If they're doing the same thing, they should have all the same locations for these items. So document all of that. So the next step is shine, and our goal here is cleaning and safety. And some 5S programs have are really called 6S, where safety is the 5th or the 6th S. But for our purposes today, we're folding safety into this step, step 3. So the first thing we're going to want to do is go through and evaluate all the equipment on the workbench. Here you can see we're testing the ESD safety of this MENDA bottle, which, as most of you may know, MENDA bottles never lose their ESD safe properties. So of course this bottle is going to be ESD safe, but if you're testing a non-MENDA bottle, you want to make sure to test for that and conduct testing of all the equipment on the workbench. Another thing you could do with this bottle is test and ensure the pump function is working. On our website, we have videos on how to clean the pumps, and we have suggestions on how often to do that. So that's something you're going to want to check. Make sure that all of the tools are sharp and ready to go. Hand tools, that they aren't broken or missing. and that everybody has all the keys that they need on their workbench to function properly. Then you're going to clean everything. You're not only going to wipe down the surface, but you're going to wipe down and clean all the items on the workbench too. And as we know, with COVID-19, this is more important than ever, which goes to kind of the next portion of the clean part of this step, is that we want to create processes. So we want to create rules around how often we're going to be cleaning. This may involve, for your business, creating a checklist, a timeline, and a schedule so that those workers know that twice a day at noon and at 5, they're going to be spraying down the workbench and spraying down the organizer and whatever is on your checklist. But you may also have monthly items and quarterly items. Maybe monthly you're checking the status of the liquids in your liquid dispenser. Maybe quarterly you're checking the capability of your cutters to cut to ensure they don't need to be sharpened. Whatever your needs are, you're going to want to kind of think ahead and create a schedule and a checklist of all those things that each worker can go through and document. You also want to clearly define how it should be done. How exactly is the spray down of the work area supposed to be? It needs to cover every area. Does the organizer need to be done? These details are important to ensuring that the employee knows what's expected and how to do it. And then also you're going to want to ensure that they have the tools to do this, that they have the proper materials, they have the spray, the wipes, the resources to order new tools when needed, the resources to clean the bottles, whatever needs to be done, you need to ensure that they have all of that. So outlining that in this part is really important. Next is standardizing. So what we're going to do is take all of our documenting that we've been using and tracking throughout all of this and develop really clearly defined procedures, schedules, and practices. So that list of items on the bench and where they're supposed to go, we're going to take all of that and ensure everybody is doing that, that is doing the same work and that has the same workbench. There might be slight variations, but generally speaking, you want every worker to have that same Tronics tool on their workbench. You want every worker who's using IPA to have a blue dispensing bottle that's marked IPA or whatever the case is. We should not be, especially now with COVID-19, we should not be sharing tools and materials, and everybody should be consistent with what they're using. So you're going to want to be looking at that and reviewing each workbench and replicating what you did. You may have to go back a few steps and go through sort and organize if someone has more clutter, or you may have to reevaluate adding a new tool in if something in your process changes. You want to ensure that that's documented and added and that everybody has access to that new tweezer that you've added to the process or whatever it is. And then you're going to want to communicate that and ensure that everybody's aware. Labeling, color coding, and signs are huge parts of 5S, and you can implement that in a bunch of different ways. Color coding, as I mentioned, with the bottles is a huge benefit. You can also color code signage. So certain, like this little list that's shown in the picture, certain aspects of your program can have different color codes to them. And then you're going to want signs and labels. So maybe the storage cabinet that has that extra braid or those tools that you don't need for every day, you might want a sign outside of it that says extra tools and supplies or whatever. So make sure that you're thinking of all those things and you make it easy and clear to all of your employees. And then you're going to want to conduct regular audits. You're going to want to look at the workbenches and make sure that they're maintaining and adhering to the program and that you have the right tools they need to get the job done. So finally, we're going to look at sustaining. This is really focused on ongoing maintenance and continuing to leverage this 5S program and always finding new ways to improve. So you want to keep looking for anything from safety to process improvement, Maybe there's a cutter that works better for your application. Always looking for ways to add to the program and make it better, because you're really going to see those results carried into productivity, quality, all of those measurables that we're measuring. So your employees should be communicated to and empowered to be advocates, looking out for those opportunities and always encouraging improvement in that way. And then as new employees come in, you should have some kind of a program to get them up to speed and to know exactly what is expected of them. It should be crystal clear. You should have all the documents, maybe an overview of what 5S is, and a training program to teach them how do they maintain 5S on their workbench and how can they contribute to the program. And then of course that tracking and monitoring of the benefits. Be sure that you're regularly measuring how those productivity improvements, those quality improvements, the increase in your sales and the quality of your customers, all those things are things you're going to want to share and that are going to motivate everybody to really continue staying on board with it and keeping with the program, and then communicating those. So you can have all different kind of programs where you highlight employees who are, had 30 days of a perfect workbench, or sharing the metrics, having a celebration because your sales have increased by 5% in 90 days because of these process improvements, or measuring, all the things we talked about, reduction in errors, reduction in safety issues. All those things are things to be celebrated and shared with your employees. So now you guys have pretty much the basic foundation on how to implement 5S in a workbench setting. Any questions about that?
Thank you, Nina. We do have a few questions in the queue. The first question is, do you need to sort items before setting your items in order at the workbench?
So that's a great question. This process was really designed in order for a reason, and technically you don't have to, but it's really going to be more efficient and reduce your time dealing with clutter that really you don't even need to evaluate. So I would recommend really follow the steps in the order that they go, because that's really the way the program was designed, and that's the most efficient way.
Thank you. There is one additional question that we'll take at this time. Is there a bin that could be used or assigned to reuse items in another area as part of the red tag process?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think that's the beauty of this program, is you can really customize certain things to work for what your needs are and in your business. So if you need an extra bin that goes in an open area that can be easily accessed, of course, absolutely modify that. And that's one reason I suggest you Google and look at 5S forms and resources, because you may, I mean, today was like a high level overview because you can really dig in and go deep in this, but really there are all different kind of things you can find that will meet your special needs. So absolutely.
Thank you. Those are all the questions for this time.
Okay, great. Well, we're coming to the tail end here, you guys. We just wanted to kind of review quickly. This right here shows a 5S compliant workbench. So we saw that starting one where everything's cluttered. And you can really see how this changes the feel and the flow of how work could happen here. Everything's in a logical location. It's easy to reach. It's organized. It's clean. You're not going to mistakenly grab the wrong thing because you've got those colored bottles. So a lot of these items are available in the MENDA line. We have a list here. Those colored labeled bottles are really wonderful. The organizer is a great addition. The drinking cup is a wonderful addition, especially to ESD environments. So this is just, these are just some of the products we offer and can help as you implement your 5S program on the workbench. And then Finally, MENDA is really here to support your 5S program. And again, we have all different kind of solutions that can really support that sorting, safety, and set process. So ranging from those bottles to organizers and more, we have those. Most of our products are made in the United States, which is local stock, quick turnaround times. We can customize many of our items. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're, coming to us for help, that those are some of the real added benefits. And as a special opportunity for attending the webinar today, you will have available to you the opportunity to sample some MENDA products at no cost. So you'll be receiving an email link as a follow-up that you can click on and request the items that you'd like to sample. And if you'd like any help or guidance in figuring out which items you'd like, our reps can help. We can refer you to a distribution partner. Alyssa and I are here to help. So we really want you guys to reap these benefits of the 5S program. It's a great program. We really encourage you to try it out. So thank you guys for joining today's webinar. I think we're pretty close to 30 minutes. We hope it was helpful. We hope that you learned something new, and we hope that you can go back to your production area and implement even that first stage, that sorting stage, as a step into better productivity, better quality of work. Just start there, and then you might find that you're going into the other steps of organization and so on. So we're here as a reminder to support you with anything we can, and we hope this was helpful.
Thank you, Nina. And just as a reminder to all attendees, we will be sharing this presentation on the mendapump.com website and via email with all of you. Thank you for your time and have a great day.
Thank you, guys.